Welcome to another show of Celebrate Life. My name is Gary Carolis, and I'm your host. Everyone has a story to tell, and every story is worth celebrating. If you know someone who would like to be a guest on my show, please have them email me at celebratelife0747@gmail.com. I'd love to hear from you, and for today, we have a very special guest, Rik Palieri. Hi, Rik. Welcome.
Hey, Gary. It's great to be here on your show.
Great to have you on the show. As you can all see, Rik is a musician and has an amazing story to tell. But where would you like to start?
Well, I think we could start at the beginning because one of the things that intrigued me when you contacted me was that you knew my old neighborhood friend.
It's amazing.
I grew up in East Brunswick, New Jersey, and on Roosevelt Avenue. And right across from my house, it was kind of catty corner, was the Mancini's house. Amazing. And so I grew up with Mike Sr.
Wow.
And his son, of course, was somebody who was in my life in those early days. And because of that neighborhood, probably because of his presence, there was a lot of music, Gary. There's a lot of music in that, as I was talking about off camera, when you were growing up in the summertime, you would hear people playing scales.
That's amazing.
So you would hear, the clarinet or the saxophone. Later on, you're hearing all of the young kids who are playing, rock.
Right.
They had their little bands playing outside, and all the neighbors would gather.
Yeah.
And so I grew up with that kind of thing. And my mom being from Poland, and my father being Polish and Italian, I had a very, ethnic background. So my mom, she actually was born in Poland, and she would take me to all these polka dances.
Accordion players.
And
right?
the saxophone. I love the saxophone. Gary, when I first wanted to play, that was the instrument I wanted to play.
Is that right? Was
saxophone. There was something about the saxophone and that sound really drew me. But I was very young, and they gave those little tests in school for musical skills.
Yeah.
And they said I had some musical skills and I wanted to play the saxophone, but they gave me a clarinet. And you can't play Wooly Bully on a clarinet, right?
Right. No.
Now, you tell a little kid that, we're giving you this clarinet.
No.
It's not the same as a saxophone.
No, it's not.
So I lost interest in that.
Interesting.
And it wasn't until later on in life I kept searching for the music. So like when my mom would take me to the polka dances, and I'd always be at the bandstand, listening to the saxophone, listening to the music. And then, it was a very kind of peculiar thing because my great-grandfather from Italy, on my father's side, he played banjo. He played mandolin. I met him, but I never saw him play. But later on, I found out that he would play all these instruments. And so, I was involved when I was a young kid as a roadie for a rock and roll band, a high school band. So I was carrying around all their amplifiers and gears, and I'd be going to their shows. And there was part of me that I wanted to participate, but that wasn't the music. And I started thinking about this sound in my head. There was a banjo.
Interesting.
There was a banjo in my head. There was no banjo around, but there was a banjo in my head. I kept hearing the sound of the banjo.
Wow.
And Mike Robo was the manager of the band. He was a little older, this band Exit. And he started telling me about this guy, Pete Seeger, who played the banjo. So first, I did what any young kid does: is you tell your mother that you want to play an instrument.
Right.
You buy or you rent this instrument. I can't remember what it was. It was a tenor banjo. It was the wrong kind of banjo. The guy who was teaching it played a Les Paul electric guitar. So he didn't really know how to play the banjo, and it was a Mel Bay book. And it was it was leading to nowhere. And I could tell when I saw Pete Seeger on TV, later on he would be on Sesame Street, you know,
Yep.
and I would look at his banjo, and then he had a show called Rainbow Quest where you could really see his banjo. He had 5 strings. And so I went to that teacher and I said, you know, the banjo that I want to play, it has 5 strings. He said, you learn how to play those 4 strings and we'll just drill a hole and stick a peg in there. He knew nothing about the banjo.
Jeez.
So I quit, you know, and my mother thought that I had given up, but I really didn't, you know. I started saving my money. First thing I bought was an instruction book, How to Play the 5-String Banjo by Pete Seeger. And I would read it. I didn't have an instrument at this point, but I would practice in school on my desktop. I would practice on my pillow, anywhere, you know,
Really?
doing the hand motions, and I'd read it all the time. And I keep, you know, reading about Pete and learning about him. Then he came to Douglas College,
Yep.
okay?
Brunswick.
I was still in high school. I did what any young kid would do at that time. I skipped school that day, hitchhiked, went over to the college. My hair was really long back then. I fit right in with all the college kids. And the moment that I saw Pete on that stage, and he lifted his hand like this, and the whole room started singing, Gary, the strangest thing happened. I felt my body fill up with light.
Wow.
I felt my whole body fill with light. And I felt like I had a purpose in life. I said, this is what I want to do with my life. That was the moment. It
Wow.
happened right there.
Right there.
And then I went, after the show, Pete was backstage. He had a petition against Vietnam War. Everybody's signing it. And so I went back there and I stumbled out and said something like, Mr. Seeger, why do you play the banjo? And he said, because I like the tone. And he smiled at me. And it was like, wow. I mean, he talked to me like a real person.
Right.
And it got me so excited that, you know, I started this hunger campaign where I took all of my lunch money, because that's the only money a young kid has.
Right.
You take your lunch money, your birthday money, everything, and you're saving for your banjo. So
Right.
I'm saving for my banjo. And I saw an ad in a newspaper for a used banjo, and it was a long neck banjo like Pete has. That has the extended long neck is for singing in a lot of different keys. That's why Pete liked to use that. And I saw the ad and I was $50 short. And I had to confess to my mother that I had been not eating lunch.
Saving for your banjo.
And so she gave me the $50 and I got my banjo. And then I went to work. I really started working hard at it and reading the books and so forth.
Wow.
And I was trying, you know, there weren't a lot of people who were playing banjo back.
Right.
This is before, there's like, in the banjo world, banjo kind of goes along with movies. There's Foggy Mountain Breakdown, and then there's Deliverance, and there's the Beverly Hillbillies and all of that kind of stuff. So I was sort of like, Foggy Mountain Breakdown happened, Beverly Hill, but not Deliverance yet, which was a big banjo
That's a
boom.
big, right.
So there wasn't a lot of people playing the banjo in my high school. So I had heard about, Gary, I had heard about this place in the Pine Barrens, okay?
Of New Jersey.
In New Jersey.
Right.
And Pine Barrens, a really desolate area
Yep.
where the Pineys are the people who live there, peculiar people. And I had heard that there was a place where everyone gathered on a Saturday night once a month called Albert's Cabin. I don't know how I found out, but I heard about it. And so a young friend of mine was trying to play mandolin. Well, he had a mandolin. That was part of the deal. You had to have the instrument.
Yeah, right.
And so I convinced him that, you know, we should go to this Albert's Cabin. So we went hitchhiking. We got down into New Jersey, down to Mount Holly.
Yep.
And we're at a little music store. And we're talking about Albert's Cabin. And the guy who owns the store is listening to us. And he goes, oh, you boys, you want to go to Albert's Cabin? And we said, yeah. He said, I'm going there tonight. I'll take you there. I was like, wow. He's going to take us there. So we wait until he closes up, and we pile in his car. We're driving down the road. We get to a part where there's a turn across the Garden State Parkway. He makes the turn, and he goes on the wrong side of the highway and darts into the woods. Now, at this moment, Gary, my heart is like pattering. I'm going, we don't know this guy. He could be an axe murderer. We just met him, and he's driving through the woods, and there's like all of these discarded kind of appliances, refrigerators and washing machines, and then there's a tree with all these things hanging in it. And I go, I know it. He's an axe murderer. He's going to stop the car and kill us. When we get to a point where there's this mirror in a tree, and it flashed the lights back, and he stops the car, and I go, oh, this is it. I know, it's all over. And he goes, do you hear it? And you could hear
The music.
Wow. And there in the middle of this field was Albert's cabin in the woods there. Wow. And there are two people. There's a young person like myself and an old guy, and they both have banjos. So I went over there, and I took out my banjo, and we're playing. Going up Creek, going in the run, going up Creek, have a little fun, going up Creek, going in the world, going up Creek, see my girl. Well, the old guy, he looks at me and he's smiling and he goes, hi, my name's Sam Hunt. I've been living here in Pine Barrens all my life. I make banjos. If you come over to my house, I'll show you all the banjos. I got banjos underneath the sink. I got banjos underneath the bed. I've got wood. And people write all over the world. They write to me and I make them a banjo. This guy talked fast and furious. I never heard anybody talk as fast as old Sam Hunt. And then he goes, and now we're going to play the old Joe Clark. You know that one, don't you? And I said, well, I saw it in a book. And he stopped, and Gary looked at me and said, well, let's learn it right now. And he said, well, just slide down on the second string like this. Can you do that? And I went, yeah. He said, now put one finger behind the other on the first string and pluck it. Can you do that? And I went, yeah. He said, good. He goes, now hit the first string open, second string open, first fret, and then open again. He says, can you do that? I said, yeah. And he goes, said, good, now do it again. This time open, do it again. And then open third string, open second fret, third fret, fourth, and open. He goes, can you do that? And I went, yeah. Wish I had nickel, wish I had dime, I wish I had pretty little girl, kiss her all the time. Fare thee well, old Joe Clark, fare thee well, I say. I travel around 1,000 miles, hear that banjo play. Fare thee well, old Joe Clark, fare thee well, I say. I travel around 1,000 miles, hear that banjo play. So I started learning from different people,
Wow.
Traveling around, and still, I joined Pete had this organization called the Sloop Clearwater. He built an old replica of an old sailing sloop, and he's cleaning up the Hudson River.
Right.
And here I was, I'm still in high school, and I joined it was called the Hudson River Sloop Restoration Inc. back then. And I joined that, and I would go to the meetings and I would see Pete and stuff, but I was very shy. Gary was very shy, so I wasn't really trying to get to know him that well. I wanted to, but I was too shy. Then one day, he's playing over at Central Park with Arlo Guthrie.
Wow.
My sister, 11 years younger than me, Lisa, she would always let me know when Pete was on Sesame Street. So she thought that I was great friends with Pete. So my mother takes Lisa to Central Park, and my other sister, Tina, and my younger brother, I think he was there too, David. And they all go to Central Park, and they're looking around at museums and stuff, and Lisa sees all these people lined up to get a seat. They got blankets out and stuff. Oh, what's going on? Oh, Pete Seeger's playing over at Central Park tonight. Well, Lisa decides that, my brother's real good friends with Pete. He must be backstage right now. So she takes Tina, and they go over to the guard, and they convince the guard to take him backstage. And he does. All right. So she gets to meet Pete Seeger. I have no idea about this. She's with Pete. Pete's talking to her. To this day, Gary, I have no idea what happened except it was magic. So that night, Pete's on the stage, and he goes, well, tomorrow we're going to have a big festival in Hoboken, New Jersey. Oh, everybody's welcome. So that morning I get up. The concert was great. I'm walking out the door. Well, Lisa looks at me and she goes, did you know that Pete Seeger files his nails? It's like, what? I had no idea that they had met, right?
Wow.
I walk out the door. I go over to the festival, and there's a little circle with young people like myself. We're all playing music together. So I'm there playing with him, and I look up, and who comes by but Pete? And he takes out his guitar, and he comes into the circle, and he's playing along with us. Now, I'm 19 years old. You can imagine what's going through my head right now. I'm like, I couldn't believe that this moment was taking place. I'm getting to play with my hero.
Right.
And the music stops. And Pete looks at me, and he goes, I haven't seen you before. Who are you? And I go, I'm Rik Palieri. He said, Rick, I met your sisters yesterday. I said, what? He said, I met your sisters yesterday. They told me you were a good banjo player. Why don't we go up on the stage? We'll play a couple songs together.
No way.
And he took me up on the stage later with all the other people. And, I think the first song, I'm gonna lay down my sword and shield down by the riverside, down by the riverside, down by the riverside. I'm gonna lay down my sword and shield down by the riverside and study war no more. I ain't gonna study war no more. Ain't gonna study war no more. Ain't gonna study war no more. I ain't gonna study war no more. Ain't gonna study war no more. Ain't gonna study war no more. And then Pete starts writing me letters, and his manager calls me up, making sure that I'm not, anybody that Pete shouldn't be involved with. And that's how we became friends.
Wow.
And that friendship lasted until the end of his life.
Wow.
It got closer.
Wow.
I mean, in the beginning, it was a young kid,
Yeah.
and he would give me things to do that he thought that I was capable of doing, helping with festivals and stuff like that. And that opened up the door to meeting. When you were with Pete Seeger, you were meeting everybody.
The royalty.
Yeah, they're all there, and you're on stage, usually as an MC, especially in my younger times. And so you'd be introducing all these people, you'd get to know them a little bit. And
so you were the MC of concerts that he would be
folk festivals,
Folk festivals?
Yeah. And the other thing that was really cool, Gary, was that once a year, we'd be on the Clearwater, on the sloop, and we'd be raising money for the boat. And we'd do that by putting pumpkins aboard the boat. And we'd sell the pumpkins up and down the river. And often when Pete would be there, the news crews would be there because it was a media event.
Right.
And he would let me sit there and watch him do interviews. And that's how I learned how to do interviews.
He was your mentor.
Yes.
He took you in.
He did.
Yeah.
He would call me up. And this is back when you had to pay for phone calls.
Right.
You remember that?
Right.
And and when Pete would start talking, you'd hear his wife, Peter, who's paying for that phone call? And he goes, oh. Because he would go on, he goes, well, Rick, did I ever tell you about the history of the labor unions? It's like, and you don't want to say,
Wow.
Pete, I'm on the phone.
Right.
But that's the way he was.
Wow.
He was, he was a visionary where he would be writing you letters and telling you different things that you should do. You should think about doing this. You should think about doing that. And that's why I say, Gary, my life would not have been the same at all. None of the doors would have opened if it hadn't been for Pete. And the time that we spent together was so precious, because I used to go up to his house, especially later on. I mean, after we started, it progressed.
Yeah.
It went from this, this background kind of thing where I'd go up to his house. He liked our honey. My wife and I had bees, and so he made this deal that he would save these honey jars for us, his wife would, and then I'd pick them up, and at the end of the season, I'd bring them the honey in exchange. Oh my goodness. But you'd go over there, and it would be something like this. Be driving down the road, Gary, you can imagine this. Driving down the road, and I'm calling Pete up, and I said, Pete, I'm not far from Beacon. I'm passing through, because he liked that song, Passing Through. Pete goes, well, Rick, Toshi's not here, but I've got a potato. Why don't you come over? We'll have lunch. So I come over, and sure enough, Pete's got a potato, one potato. And, the two of us are sitting there like you would think there was a feast going on.
Right.
He sliced the potato, put it in the oven, butter potato. We'd sit down and we'd eat the potato together.
Wow.
And that was those precious moments.
Wow.
Sometimes it was like, oh, I need some help with maple syrup. Can you stay, the week? And I was, at that time, I was doing all those school shows I was telling you about. And I'd go, well, I gotta be in North Dakota. And his wife, Toshi, goes, well, Rick, North Dakota, where do you gotta go in North Dakota? And, she'd be pulling out a map. And she's calculating. She goes, no, if you can stay the weekend and you can still get to your gig, Wow. And it was just hilarious.
Rick, as you both grew older, did he come with you on your travels? As you did with him?
He would come to the festivals that I started putting festivals together. Okay. So in Perth Amboy, I created a festival called the Festival of Blueberries. So Pete came there. Pete came to other things that I had put together. We never really went on a tour, just the two of us. It was more interviews. Yeah. I have 5 hours of interviews with Pete on every topic that you can think. I'd get over to his house and he goes, well, Rick, what do you want to know about me that you don't already know? But that was the beginning. Wow. And that opened up a whole different world. But I knew early on, that there's only one Pete Seeger. I was smart enough to understand that. And so it's like, who are you? Okay? And that's when I started delving into the background, my Polish background, and learning about Polish bagpipes and flutes and all kinds. And I went, and to make a really long story short, I got a fellowship from the government of Poland back in 1984 and lived in Poland with all these master musicians.
Really? Wow.
And learned how to play all these pipes and stuff like that.
Wow.
And then after I did that is when they asked me, after I finished this long fellowship, if I could take what I learned. Remember, 1984, 85, when I finished that, the idea of some of these musicians ever coming to the United States was not possible with communism, the way things were. And they said, we can't demand this from you, but you've learned a lot of things, and we'd like you to pass it on to the people in your country. So that's when I got the idea of working for the National School Assembly. And so I was on the road, as I was telling you, for years. And I was playing Polish bagpipes and doing all kinds of things about about the culture and explaining, about these instruments. And that's why I learned about the Native American flute when I was on the reservations, because they would send me out on the reservations, And so I would be on a reservation for a week. And at the end of the week, they would say, well, do you want to learn something about our culture? And I said, yeah. I said, I heard about this instrument called the cording flute, Native American cording flute. And they said, well, you're in luck. One of the best players is home right now. And I'll call his mother.
What reservation is this?
Standing Rock.
Standing Rock.
Yeah, out in South Dakota.
That's Oglala, Lakota.
Yeah, Lakota.
Yeah.
And so I had to meet with the mother because that's the protocol. And if she felt that you were good enough to meet her son, then I went over and I was talking with Kevin. And he's going through all this mail and we're talking about all this stuff. And I said, well, I'd like to learn a little bit about the flute while I'm here. And he goes, I'm busy right now. I says, can you come back in an hour? And I came back an hour later, and he goes, usually they don't come back. But since you came back, I want to know if you're willing to sit through a traditional sweat lodge purification ceremony. And we'll sit in the sweat lodge, and if I get the idea that I can teach you, then I'll show you. And so I went through this whole sweat lodge thing with not only Kevin, but his mother and two cousins. And when I came out of the sweat lodge, he was telling me about the instrument, that it was an instrument that was used in the courting tradition. So a man would compose a song for the woman that he loved. And that's why a lot of the old traditional songs, it's not correct for you or I, if we're not Native American, to play those songs. Because they belong to different families. But there are songs that are more, a kind of a generic kind of thing that you, so he taught me a few of those, but he really encouraged me to take the technique of how to play the flute and apply it to music that's inside of you. And one of the songs that really works well on a Native American flute is that song about the wayfaring stranger. You remember that one?
Beautiful.
So,
Beautiful.
and so the whole idea that I've learned from a lot of people is the idea that the music is inside of us. It's not just on the banjo. It's not just on a guitar.
Right.
The music is in our hearts.
Right.
And there's a lot of different ways to express that music.
Yes.
These
are vehicles for that expression.
Right, and they all have a different thing. So, when I got through with traveling out west, one of the things I wanted to do was storytelling, because there were so many great storytellers that I would be around. And I came back from my Western Odyssey, and I heard about this wonderful storyteller, a Native American storyteller here in Vermont named Wolfsong. And I went over to Wolfsong and I asked him about, is there any way that he could teach me a little bit about telling some stories? And he said, well, I really like the way you play the flute. He said, if you teach me how to play the flute, I'll teach you how to tell stories. So that's how we became friends, is that he would spent some time teaching me a little bit about telling stories, using your whole body, using everything to tell that story. And then, Wolfsong passed away. He passed away too early. And I was thinking about him, and this was before the internet, you know what I mean? This was back in the days where, if you didn't hear anything about somebody, you started forgetting about them, time goes by.
Right.
So I wanted to honor my friend in a certain way. So they had a ceremony for Wolfsong on Snake Mountain, not too far from here.
In the south, yeah.
And when they scattered his ashes, I started, thinking about him. And when he would tell a story, Gary, especially if it was a long story, he had to make sure that you didn't fall asleep. So he would say, "Hey," and if you were still listening, you went, "Ho," right? And I heard his voice going, "Hey, ho, hey, ho, hey," on Snake Mountain in the Vermont hills, high above the rocks and rills. After midnight, when the moon's in spring, you could hear the wolf song sing. Hey, ah, 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 hey. Oh, oh, oh. Hey, ah, 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 hey. Oh, he was a man. He walked this land, and he came from Abenaki clan. He shared his stories, he shared his soul, reaching out to young and old. Hey, ah, 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 hey. Oh, oh, oh. Hey, ah, 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 hey. Oh, oh. Now his journey in this world is through, but he still lives in me and you, like Usagabi and all his friends. Now his story will never end. No, no, no. Hey, ah, hey, ah, hey, oh, we remember. Hey, ah, hey, ah, hey. Oh, oh, oh. Hey, ah, hey, ah, hey, oh, we remember. Hey, ah, hey, ah, hey. Oh, oh.
Beautiful. What a beautiful song.
So, you start writing songs, you start, doing a lot of those kind of things, and you start seeing your life go in a lot of directions. Now, I never liked to write, Gary. When I was a kid, I was the kid who didn't have a pencil. You remember those kind of kids? They never had a pencil. The teachers always yelling, "Where's your pencil?" And it wasn't until I was living in Poland that because Pete would write me letters when I was in Poland, and he was telling me the importance of keeping a journal. And he said that someday it might be really important. You're going to need all of those notes, and you're not going to remember them.
Right.
And so I, once again, I listened to Pete, and I kept a journal, and and that continued to this day. I mean, every day I write. It's a little bit different. I call it my book of dreams, Gary. It's not a journal. What it is, and I'm not talking about what I'm dreaming about at night. I'm talking about what I am hoping to accomplish. Those are my dreams.
Yeah.
And then I do the whole thing about creative visualization.
Yep.
You've heard of that, right?
Of course.
Now, there's a funny story about that, is that I wanted to see if this really works, this creative visualization thing. You know what I mean? It's like hocus pocus, the secret, this kind of thing. So I said, okay, I'm going to pick something really difficult, okay, that I could not do on my own.
Yeah.
So I said, I am going to try to find and get a Martin D45, one of the best guitars you can have. And so, and that was impossible at the time. Yeah, I mean, because there are thousands and thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
And so, but I did what you're supposed to do. I cut out a picture of it, put it on the refrigerator, started thinking about it, started reading about it. You have to really, really believe that somehow this thing is going to materialize.
Yeah.
And at the time, I was doing my TV show, and I went to the Martin Guitar Factory, and I was interviewing Dick Boak, who's the head rep for Martin. And so we're walking around where they're making the D45s. And I go, Dick, I'm thinking about, I'd like to have a D45. And he goes, you don't need a D45. And I felt like, oh, yeah, he's right. Of course. What am I thinking? I don't need it. He goes, you need a D42. He said, why have all that pearl that you don't need on the back? And he said, no, I'll help get it for you. So.
Oh my goodness.
This is I call it pearl.
Wow.
So he opened the door, gave me a super discount. He picked this guitar out for me. And I sold a guitar that I had. It just immediately, it was like I would say within like 3 weeks from the time I wrote it into my book of dreams, I was holding this guitar.
Oh my good. That's mother of pearl around the end.
Yeah. That's all the
Wow.
the intricate pearl. So this is a really special guitar because it came out of just like my banjo. Usually I have my other banjo. This is my touring banjo. The old one I still play, my lunch money banjo, which is a great instrument.
Yeah, that's a relic.
And like this flute, there's so many instruments that were just given to me. And it's once again about this whole idea of if you want things to happen, they will appear. And so, and that's the way my life has been. It's been built on risk. It's taking the risk. You have to do the work.
Yes.
It's not that things are coming to you without you doing anything. You're working at it,
right?
But because you're focused at doing it.
Right.
So when I wrote this book, Banjo Man, I wrote an earlier book that was called The Road Is My Mistress, that had a lot of stories and so forth. Once again, it was like, I told you, I don't like to write.
I was going to say, look at this.
I don't like to write, but I need to write. It's the thing that it's the trying to write it is a lot of work for me. And you can see that the size of this book. My friends tease me. They say, most people write a book that you can't put down. You wrote one you can't pick up. So, yeah.
Wow.
But to tell your story was so important. And with Banjo Man, I wanted to tell the full story, because the earlier book that I had written, I had not matured yet, where I could tell the full story. So it was up to a point I was still traveling, I was still meeting people, but when I wrote this during the pandemic, when I had no gigs, gigs.
Right.
So I really put my heart and soul into telling the story of what I couldn't do. And and all the characters that I met along the way. So it's a celebration of not just me, but all of the people that influenced me.
Right.
And that's what I was saying earlier on, is like when I first started this journey, it was like I was reading about people, I'm listening to the old recordings, and then all of a sudden everything starts changing, where, my TV show in 2009, I had been doing it for quite a while. I got contacted by the Library of Congress, American Folklife Center, and they said that they wanted to see if they wanted my collection. Now, this was a pretty, I wasn't sure what that meant.
Yeah.
Okay. And I sent them a few copies, thinking that they would want to cherry pick. And they said, we can't tell who's going to be important in the future. We want it all. And I had to give them my original masters, because as time goes on, the technology changes, as you know,
Yep.
and you need the clearest, purest master to go from.
Right.
You know,
Right.
and so I had to bring all of these masters down to Washington, D.C.
Wow.
My wife and I went down there, and the whole car's filled, because they were, the early ones were the 3/4, videos, those big ones. Remember those?
Yes.
And so it was pretty amazing. And I've added to that collection since then. And so that was like a big surprise. But that gave me sort of permission to set the bar higher.
Mm-hmm.
Because the Library of Congress said, we look at things 100 years from now. What is going to be important? So what you're donating, and that's the way it is. But
Yeah.
they don't take a lot of things. They have to really want it, because I signed a contract, Gary, with the future people of the United States of America.
Yeah, that's right.
That's what it said on the contract.
Is that right? Wow.
And I have the rights to them as long as I'm alive. But after I'm gone, all of my things go into the Library of Congress. I mean, they have them there now.
And this was an interview show, and you interviewed various musicians that you had.
Yes, both here in Vermont,
Yeah.
people like Rachel Bissix and Margaret MacArthur, all kinds of, and then, Brent Hollenbeck from the Free Press,
Yeah.
and Dan Bowles. I mean, all of these people, I had them in the studio. And then I would take my cameras on the road. And that's where I got the interviews I couldn't get, like all the ones with Pete Seeger, the ones with Utah Phillips, and all of these people. And what they said, Jennifer Cutting is the woman from the Library of Congress, from American Folklife Center. She said, like John Lomax, Alan Lomax, great collectors, and they collected things from their time. Don't try to do that. What we need is things from now. Mm-hmm. And that's what I did. I call it the Songwriter's Notebook. And it was really interviewing songwriters about their life, and also the aspect of the songwriting process.
Wow. Wow. So if someone from the public wanted to see them, how would...
Some of them are online. You could go you look for the Songwriter's Notebook. You go when I started, it was VCAM, and now it's the Media Factory. The Media Factory has a bunch of them that you can watch there.
Yep.
If you're seriously doing research, you go to Washington, D.C. Mm-hmm. Just the way it's always been.
Right.
And that was the cool thing. I'm there the first day, and they're giving me the tour of the Library of Congress, and they're showing me here is the recorder that was used to record Leadbelly.
Wow.
Here's stuff by Woody Guthrie.
Wow.
The original acetates and all that kind of
Wow.
thing. So you're right there.
Yeah.
With all of those heroes.
Wow.
Now the funny thing is, not too long ago, I'm trying to fit a lot of things in here, is that I received a Lifetime Achievement Award from Douglas College.
Is that right?
And so I was on the stage at Douglas College at the New Jersey Folk Festival, within sight of the chapel where I first saw Pete Seeger.
Oh my God.
And talk about that
Wow.
big circle going round.
Wow.
And what that meant to me was
Wow.
this has been some wild journey.
Wow.
So what else do you want to know?
Well, what do we not touch a part of your life that we should talk about?
No, ask me a question.
What are you doing these days?
These days, right now, I have a radio show called Folk Talk that I'm still producing, and that's for satellite radio.
Okay.
And that their station is called folkmusicnotebook.com, and it's 24/7 folk music. I'm also in the process of playing More again, I mean, after the pandemic, everything kind of shut
Right.
down.
Yep.
So I just came back. I was on tour over in England on narrowboats. You know, those narrowboats in the canals. They have all these little canals,
Yeah.
and they have these narrowboats. They're 66 feet long, and I was with a bunch of musicians, and we were traveling all through England,
Really?
playing and singing. So that was just a couple of weeks back.
That's amazing.
And yeah, so those things, every once in a while, I still do my TV show, not as often as I used to, but I still, will go in and interview people. I have a project that I'm working on for a book that is sort of, I've been working on for a while. It's another total different departure. It's like a weird kind of a kid's book, but it's all about hobos and the future and all kinds. It's very bizarre.
Interesting. I have 2 questions for you. One is, it sounds like you've been able to carve out a musician's life and financially make a go of it without having to do a whole bunch of other things to do what you love doing.
Well, that and the fact that my wife, is a hand bookbinder. Okay.
Interesting.
And so I help out at the bindery with her. And without Mariana's support, it would be a lot harder. Because she believes in the dream. She believes in the dream.
Great.
And so we work together. So I help her out, at the book bindery when I'm not on tour.
That's great.
And that's why when we did this book, even though it's a paperback, we designed it like one of the books that she works on.
And like, did she bind these books? Or
No. We do. I have presentation books. That are all bound in leather, because she does. Her family started binding books in 1870.
Wow.
And so it's an old-fashioned book bindery, leather and gold.
Where do you?
In Heinsberg.
Heinsberg. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
in Heinsberg.
That's amazing.
Yeah. You should have her come and tell her story.
Exactly.
She's really has quite a story to tell.
And who are you mentoring?
Well, Jason Baker is somebody who helps me with my my radio show, and he is. What he did was he wrote a grant for the Vermont Folk Life Center, about me teaching him the Pete Seeger style of banjo. So we did that for a year.
Nice.
And I taught him not only how to play it, but who Pete was.
Right.
And
Right.
try to instill in him the same things that I got
Right.
from Pete. And that's what you realize, Gary, is that you are, now I'm 70 years old. So it's like part of my job is to be able to pass on
Right.
what I have learned
Yes.
to the future.
Yes.
So both in this life that I lived, because it's an unusual life. I mean, it really has been.
Yeah,
It's not been I haven't. I'll sneak this song in. Do we have enough time?
Yeah, we have enough time.
Good.
And let me just say this too,
Yeah.
from the musicians that I've known over the years, my father being one, is a musician makes a choice. Do I stay at home and play local gigs, or I'm talking about very good musicians, or do I go on the road? Like in the 40s, it would be the big bands. They go on
Right.
the road and they
Right.
play all over the country, all over the world in many respects. Did you have that? Did you at some point say, I want to open myself up to the world?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
I did.
Yes.
That's when I got the idea of doing all these schools.
Yeah.
That was my boot camp.
That's right.
Over 1,000 schools.
1,000
So I was
schools.
four schools a day in different places.
Wow.
And this is before GPS. This is water tower. You're looking for the water tower of the next town and hoping you're going to get to that and hoping that the train's not going to go by. And
Wow.
all kinds of weather in every state in the lower 48, and then
Wow.
later on up in Alaska, and then finally I didn't do any schools in Hawaii, but I did play in Hawaii.
Wow.
So I played in every state in the United States, in Germany, over in Scotland, in Poland, of course, in Israel, in Turkey, in Australia. I mean,
Wow.
my music has been, I always say my banjo was my passport to the world.
Yeah, yeah,
And,
absolutely.
But there is that time where you're saying, well, can I make a living at home? And the answer is maybe, maybe. But it's like, you know that you're not playing the cover songs of bar songs, and I mean, not that you don't once in a while, but you have this different story to tell, an obligation.
Yeah.
I mean, Pete entrusted me with carrying on the legacy of especially with this 5-string banjo. He always felt that, I found out later in life, I didn't know all this stuff until after he passed away, that his family members and close friends told me, and he believed in what I was doing and the way that I was approaching, my life.
How old was he when you met him?
He was probably in his 50s.
Okay. Yeah.
He was in his 50s. Yeah. And so I was with him when he was going through, and I was with a lot of my mentors when they were going through that getting old stage.
Yeah, right.
And with Pete, it was his voice. He was, he had to do the singing exercises, and he was struggling with that. With Utah Phillips, it was his hands. That he was having trouble with his hands, And, now I understand it. At then, I was a young kid, so still not really young, but, I wasn't really thinking about the time would come where I would have to think about these things.
Wow. He passed the baton on to you.
Yeah, not just to me, but to many.
Many, yes.
What people, when Pete died, of course, there was... people all over the world, and I was getting a lot of different reporters calling me up and asking me. They said, "Well, who's going to be the next Pete Seeger?" And I said, "All of us." I said, not one person can fill those shoes, but everybody can pick up a little piece.
That's right.
Somebody could play the banjo. Somebody could play the 12-string guitar. Someone could sing a song in different languages. So everyone could be carrying on this legacy. And, it was very sad when he passed away that he was a different kind of performer, because he created a space in our hearts when he was, that you felt, if you met him, you felt like you knew him. Or even if you didn't meet him, you felt like you knew him. He lived with you. And when he passed away, it was like there was a hole in your heart. And we had to figure out a way how to heal and fill that. And the only way is by singing the songs and by continuing that tradition.
Right. Well, good for you. Before you play a song, we can end up maybe on a song. Words of wisdom to a young musician, or someone out there that's watching this interview and saying, what pearls of wisdom about your life that you would like to share with them?
Don't give up.
Don't give up. Okay.
Don't give up.
Yeah.
It's really tempting. Sometimes life gets really hard.
Yeah.
As a musician.
Yeah.
And as you know, if you come from a musical family, the struggle. The icing on the cake is when you're out on that stage for a few minutes, but there's all the other things, the driving, the putting together the shows, the trying to find the work, that is much harder.
Yes.
It's much harder.
Yes.
Playing the music is easy.
Yeah.
Once you know how. I mean, you have to know how. But once you know how, that's not the hard part. There's so many talented people, as you know, who are trying to make a living doing this, and some are really, really talented, but they don't have any way of perseverance to get the job done. you know,
Okay.
because it's not just about playing the music.
That's right.
And that was another thing I learned from Pete. I mean, he was writing books. He was doing all different types of things all the time.
Amazing.
You know.
Yep.
And that was I think the other thing is, if I'm talking to someone out there who's a young person or not even young, just a person with a dream, find a mentor. They're out there. Find a mentor. It doesn't have to be a famous mentor.
That's right.
But find someone that you can talk to, and they'll help you a little ways.
Yeah, yeah.
And then maybe you'll find another mentor and
Exactly.
another one. And that's what I did through my life, is I kept meeting with all of these different people.
Marion Wright Edelman talks about lanterns, that her mentors were like lanterns for her, and they would open up the path. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's one of the things that I would say. And the other thing is, follow your own path. You can't, you know, I'm not trying to pretend to be somebody that I'm not.
Right.
You know,
Right.
if I was one-dimensional and I was just trying to, to imitate, I'm not trying to imitate.
Right.
You know, I'm not sitting there trying to figure out, how to play this note for note or do that. What Pete, is more that I try to capture the spirit, the energy, the vitality, the fun.
Yes.
That I got out of that.
Yes.
And so that's really.
Those are great words. Thank you.
So there's a. So here's the real way that my whole career started. I was learning all that music, and I had to get a job early on. I'm talking about really early on in my life. And so I ended up working at a factory. I was working at a wire and cable mill in New Jersey. And it was a terrible job, as you can imagine. And all the guys there were, I was working the midnight shift, which folks don't work the midnight shift, not a good thing. All the guys were real characters. They all had nicknames, When you're working the midnight shift, you get the nickname kind of crowd, There's the hawk with a big nose, and there's Mulligan Stew who likes his whiskey, and, Bubba, There's a whole of these people. Right. And I had really long hair, and then they weren't like really digging what I was doing. But, they were kind of warming up to me, and, I was taking my little bit of money that I had, I was making, and the first thing I did was buy a Martin guitar. I bought a Martin 12-string guitar. That was my first major investment. And I was taking lessons, banjo lessons, from Eric Darling, who was part of the Weavers. He was, and so I took lessons with him in New York City. And then, I was trying to learn how to play some of these pieces. And so here it was, late at night. It's about 3 o'clock in the morning, and the cables are running good. Everything's fine. Everybody's, everything's working the way, and the guys are doing crossword puzzles and stuff because everything's working out well. And so I had a little tape recorder, and I'm listening on my cassette, and there's this. This song, June Apple, by Wade Ward. And I'm sitting there and I'm listening to that song, Well, the guys, they all start having some fun. And they all join hands and they start square dancing around the machinery. And the boss comes out and he looks at me and he looks at my little tape recorder and his men not working, but dancing together around the machinery. He brings me into the office and he says, well, you're not cut out for this work, He says, but you're in the union, so we're gonna lay you off, And he said, you'll be okay, you'll be able to find something else, So I left there, and then I started getting unemployment, and I realized that I was getting unemployment, and I could do whatever I wanted to do and learn how to be a really good banjo player, and I started teaching banjo lessons, and I never worked for anybody else. That was 1974.
There you go.
I wish I was a June apple sitting on a tree. Every time a true love pie, she'd take a bite of me. It's peaches in the summertime, apples in the fall. I can't have the one I love, won't have none at all. So that was the beginning of my career, that song.
Wow.
And
Thank you.
so, like I said, it's not anything's predictable.
Yeah, that's right.
It's not. It's not like you know, how do I do, you know, people, when you're young, you're asking those questions. You say, well, how do I become, you know, a singer, a performer? Everyone has to find their own way. Because what works for you might not work for me.
Yes.
And what works for me won't work for you.
Exactly.
You know, so the idea is to keep the dream alive, and find out, like, that big question that we all have to ask. It's a hard question, is who are you? You have to look deep inside and figure out, who are you? And are you part of your ancestry? Of course. You know, are you part of your environment? Of course.
Yes.
You know, so you have to figure out, you know, but what makes you special, and what's going to be, I guess, when you're in your 70s or even younger than that, what is your legacy?
Yeah.
What are you know, I don't have any kids. We unfortunately, my wife and I couldn't have any. And so what is my legacy is my music.
Absolutely.
You know, the music that I've learned, the stories that I've written.
Yeah.
It's been an interesting ride so far.
Great
And I'm,
ride.
you know, and it's Bruce Springsteen says, it's still got miles to go. Look at, you know,
Absolutely.
you got Keith Richards out there.
Exactly. Could you end our interview with a song?
Yeah.
Pick.
I'm thinking, oh yeah, just for fun, a fun
Just for
song.
fun.
A fun song. All right, so this is a song that I wrote for fun. And I was turning 50, and my road manager at the time, Tony, in England, was turning 60. So I was teasing him. And I was saying, man, you're getting old. He goes, old man, I'm not old. I'm still riding my Harley Davidson motorcycle. I got a new patch. I'm sewing it on my jacket. It says, too old to die young. Now, I said, now that's a line for a songwriter. So he challenged me. He said, can you write a song about that? So I did. And the funny thing is, the first time it was on the radio was on Car Talk. Remember Car Talk?
Oh, yeah.
Driving down the highway looking for a little thrill, racing with my friends in my Pontiac Bonneville. Don't wear a seatbelt, don't give a damn. Driving into Nashville from Alabama. The young folks say I'm having too much fun. I'm just too old to still die young. Just too old to still die young. I'm just too old to still die young. Just too old to still die young. I'm just too old to still die young. I'm a hillbilly rebel yelling son of a gun, and I'm just too old to still die young. I love my Harley, still love my whiskey. Life ain't worth living if you're not being risky. Don't eat quiche, man, I ain't no sissy. Sleeping in a boxcar from Maine to Mississippi. Young folks say you're having too much fun, but I'm just too old to still die young. 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 I'm a hillbilly rebel yelling son of a gun. Just too old to still die young. I wake when the sun rises, eat lots of French fries, work like a damn fool, yell if I want to, move like a jaguar, run like a NASCAR, drink like an old clown, sleep when I fall down. Young folks say I'm having too much fun. Just too old to still die young. Say the good die too soon, but I'm still here shooting the moon. There may be snow on the top of my head, but I ain't laying down till they find me dead. Oh no, I'm driving down the highway looking for a little thrill, racing with my friends in my Pontiac Bonneville. Don't wear a seatbelt, don't give a damn. Driving into Nashville from Alabama. Young folks say I'm having too much fun. Just too old to still die young. 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 I'm a hillbilly rebel yelling son of a gun. Just too old to still die young. I'm a hillbilly rebel yelling son of a gun. Just too old to still die young.
Thank you, Rick. Thanks very much.
All right, Gary.
Great having you.